Hi everybody, welcome back to Toons Reviews. Thank you all for being here with me today. If you're not already a subscriber, please click down on the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you can be reminded when I have new content that's coming out. Thank you so much, I would really appreciate it. It's your way of being able to support me for free. Today, we're gonna talk about my 3 favorite Chanel fragrances and why I think you should pick them up. Stay tuned. Coming in at number 3 is a fragrance that is very divisive. You either think that this is a modern classic or you think that this is the creation behind the downfall for fragrances today on the designer end of things. I myself think that this is a modern classic. This is Bleu de Chanel, and this is the Eau de Parfum version. Bleu de Chanel is basically grapefruit and incense, got some woods, and it's got this blue feeling to it. This is what really kicked off those trendy little suckers that are considered or deemed blue scents that we've experienced for the last decade. And it really all started with this one here, and it's a wonderful fragrance. I don't care what anybody says. There's a sparkling effervescence behind this that reminds me of champagne that Chanel fragrances do so well. It has a cleanliness to it. It has a citrus quality about it. It has a dense, and I wouldn't say it was a modern woods, and altogether it just smells like a really, really clean, professional man, in my opinion. And I absolutely think that this is something that most people would consider necessary for their wardrobe. So number 3 is Bleu de Chanel, and this is the Eau de Parfum version. This is my personal favorite version of Bleu de Chanel. The original Eau de Toilette was very good as well. The Eau de Parfum is probably my number 1, and the Parfum version is probably my least favorite, if I'm honest. I do think that it loses a lot of those lighter nuances and that effervescent, sparkly quality that I love so much in the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum version. So if you're looking for a fragrance that is a Swiss Army knife, a fragrance that you can use for work, for a date, for a night out, just an all-around, well-rounded scent, this is a perfect choice. And the reason why I think that it is in my top 3 favorite Chanel fragrances: Bleu de Chanel, Eau de Parfum. Coming in at number 2 is 1957 from the Les Exclusives line. And this to me is basically an aldehydic iris. This has a really beautiful opening. It is effervescent, it is sparkly, it is clean. It even smells kind of like a perfume that would come out of the 40s. A lot of Chanel's fragrances do have that quality about them with those aldehydes. And then this kind of turns into a very modern, irisy, musky, skin kind of vibe with some undertones of vanilla on my skin anyways. Actually, the sales rep that smelled this on me was very surprised at how beautifully vanillic the iris becomes on my skin when I was testing this out. And that is the reason why I enjoy this so much, because there is a transparency about this fragrance, and it has a luxurious vibe, and it's very modern. So it comes across as being a fragrance that is very much in the realm of being dressed up, like you're wearing a suit and a tie or a tuxedo. And it also has this beautiful transparency that you can pull this off in the heat. So for all those reasons, it's coming in at number 2, because I do think that this is a beautiful, wearable, musky iris fragrance with some of those sweeter undertones, but it's not so dense and it's not so vanillic in the into the realm of like Dior Homme or Dior Homme Intense, but just rather a very light, airy, clean iris that has some of those undertones that makes it a little bit more upper scale. So that's why this is coming in at number 2, and I think that if you're looking for a fragrance to wear for an upper scale event, like a wedding, in the spring or summer, check this one out, because it is beautiful for men and women. And I lied, number 1 is a 2-way tie, so really I guess this is a top 4. But number 1, I couldn't choose one or the other. I currently don't have a full bottle of one of them that I'll be talking about because my bottle is all gone. I had the Eau de Toilette version. They're now only released in Eau de Parfum, I believe. And this is Chanel's Sycamore from the Les Exclusives line. This is my favorite, hands down, my favorite vetiver fragrance. It's a smoky vetiver. It's a very smoky vetiver. If you're not familiar with vetiver, vetiver smells very green and rooty and woodsy sometimes, and this is like about as smoky as it gets. So if you're familiar with Encre Noir, that's probably a little bit smokier than this, but it's along those lines. And I think that this fragrance is absolutely stunning for the fall, and probably, again, one of the ones that I lean toward the most for a vetiver-based fragrance. So Sycamore is tied with one other fragrance. This is the story of a girl who cried a river, and this is number one to me, slightly over Sycamore. This is Egoist by Chanel, and oh my God, is this beautiful. This is just like finding a buried treasure chest. When I found this fragrance, I guess probably about 7-8 years ago for the first time, I could not believe that I had never experienced it before. It was one of those fragrances where my jaw dropped and I was just so in love immediately. I had to blind buy it because Chanel's Egoist is very hard to come by in the States. It's a fragrance that's very difficult to obtain at a retail counter. You basically can only find this through Chanel's website. So this to me is just the most beautiful representation of like 80s powerhouse fragrance. I know this came out in the 90s, early 90s. I think it was 90 or 91. But this reminds me of why I love 80s fragrances so much, because it still has those 80s nuances to it. It's lavender and vanilla and cinnamon and rose, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's sandalwood, and it's just basically this great amalgamation of notes that end up making it smell like a really beautiful creamy sandalwood with some of that rose and some of those beautiful spices, and it's just gorgeous. It's one of the most amazing fragrances. This is my most favorite designer fragrance of all time, and this is going to forever be my favorite Chanel, hands down, and one of my most favorite offerings that I've ever tried in my fragrance journey. And I highly recommend checking it out if you are looking for something like that kind of scent, that spicy, sandalwoody fragrance that kind of can take you back to a decade that maybe you weren't able to experience. Like me, I was born in 91, so I just missed the 80s, but this reminds me of what that era would smell like. So for me, this is always going to be a keep. I hope you all enjoyed my top 3 Chanel fragrances. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you all soon.